Good evening, everyone. Today, Deepu is going to be speaking on topic number 6, which his topic is Know Your Brain. And this is a continuation of a topic that he had before, Know Your Brain. Stay cool under pressure. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a continuation from a previous presentation that he had made. We all know Deepu very well. Deepu is the Vice President Education for the second year running. And Deepu also works as a Senior Director at Cognizant. He lives in Bridgewater and is an active member of the church. I think this topic, know your brain and keep cool under pressure, is very germane to all of us. Because when we make our speeches, we have to stay cool under pressure. So without further ado, I invite Deepu to give a speech.
Thank you, James, for the introduction. Good evening, Toastmaster and my fellow club members. During my last speech, I touched upon how we can improve, how we can enhance the performance by gaining a better understanding of the brain's functions, specifically the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia. We learned how the prefrontal cortex controls the conscious thoughts and thereby the problem solving and decision making, and basal ganglia, which drives the routine functions. We also discussed how we can improve the productivity by dividing the day or the unit of work into multiple blocks of time by the type of brain usage. Today, I would like to cover another important aspect, that is the impact of emotions on thinking, and a few techniques on how to stay cool under pressure when emotions take over. Our ability to regulate emotions is key to being very effective in this world. Emotional experience is connected to a part of our brain called the limbic system. The limbic system tracks our emotional relationship to persons, objects, thoughts, actions, and it unconsciously drives our behavior. So there are two types of responses. One is the aware response and one is the toward response. Emotions such as happiness, contentment, curiosity, all are called toward responses. And emotions such as anxiety, fear, sadness are aware responses. And our limbic system fires up far more intensely when it perceives a danger, that is aware response, when compared to when it senses a toward response or a reward. So, there are several choices to be made before the emotions kicks in, like situation selection, situation modification, and attention deployment. For example, we are asked to give a presentation on an uncomfortable topic. Situation selection is by deciding not to do it or by delegating to someone who is an expert at it. Situation modification is probably changing the setting to an improper one or probably thoroughly preparing for it. Even when you're thoroughly prepared, you could still be anxious. You could decide whether you would like to pay attention to it. But these are the options that are applicable only when before the emotions kicks in. So what happens if the emotions kicks in? There are three options. First one is to express the emotions. And we all know that it's not germane to express the emotions in our social work settings. Second option is suppression, holding down our feelings and stopping the emotions by not being perceived by others. Expression is not an option and mostly out of question, and suppression has a lot of downsides. So what should we do? An answer to this question is actually the most important takeaway from my speech today. And for that, we need to understand the relationship between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. They both work like a seesaw. Increase in the arousal of the prefrontal cortex will dampen the limbic system and vice versa. So when the limbic system is more aroused, the resources available for our prefrontal cortex reduces, and we tend to respond negatively in most of the situations. So strategy should be to reduce the arousal of the limbic system. So there are two techniques. First one is symbolic labeling. If you are able to find a right word to name that emotional sensation, I think studies show that it reduces the aroused limbic system. For example, when we are angry, if we can name that emotion as anger, or when we are sad, or when we are anxious, naming the emotion as anxiety, I think for mild emotions it reduces. But it works only in certain cases. But in the case of the second and more powerful technique is reappraisal. That is reinterpretation, the changing, or reappraisal involves choosing consciously to see the things differently. Reinterpretation, changing the interpretation of the event, or repositioning, to look from or finding a new position to look at the event. It could be from a new person's position, it could be from a new country's or a culture's perspective, or it could be from your own perspective at a different time. We all know that kids and teenagers express their emotions, and their success and their future well-being as they get older depends on what their emotion regulation strategy is. The kids and the teenagers who learn to reappraise, I think, tend to perform much better. Now I would like to conclude my speech, I think, by covering 5 domains of social experience that could help you collaborate with others better. That is SCARF model: the status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Now take a moment to think about what it feels like when you interact with someone who makes you notice what is good about yourself. Someone who is very clear of expectations of you, that is increasing the certainty. Someone who lets you take decisions, who gives increasing autonomy. Someone who speaks to you, connects with you on a personal level, increasing relatedness. And someone who treats you fairly, increasing the sense of fairness. When we manage to elevate certain elements of this SCARF model, we give a good experience to them, and when we give that experience, the others tend to be more calmer and happier, thereby reducing the limbic system arousal, which in turn increases the resource available for prefrontal cortex, and thereby giving more, helping them to process more information, helping them to improve the productivity and performance. So I personally started practicing this, and it has definitely of great help for me, and I sincerely hope that this will be of benefit to you also. Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know, it was an awesome speech, and it's pretty much germane to our current work culture, because we are all working under pressure on a day-to-day basis. So, an awesome speech. Big applause to Deepu.